Hello everyone, welcome back to our military history channel. Today we are diving into the part 3 of chapter 6 where we will be discussing the loss of Jhangar. Friends, stay tuned as we explore this significant event in detail. Ladies and gentlemen, first we will start with the strategies post Jhangar setback. It refers to the military plans and actions developed by the Indian Army following their defeat at Jhangar in December 1947. After losing control of their strategically important locations during the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947-48, the Indian forces needed to regroup and rethink their approach to reclaim the area and prevent further losses. For easy understanding, friends, we have divided this part into following heads. Following the setback of Jhangar in December 1947, the Indian military swiftly reassessed their strategies to regain lost ground and strengthen their defenses. This period saw critical changes and decisions that shaped the subsequent operations. And by analyzing the relative strength and weaknesses of both the Indian and enemy forces, the military identified key disparities that influence the conflict's dynamics. Strategic insight from Major General Kulwant Singh and broader assessment from General Lockhart guided effort to counter enemy advances and bolster defenses. India's focus shifted to strategic objectives like regaining territory and fortifying key positions, supported by crucial air support and optimized logistics to sustain operations. Reinforcement, new tactical approaches, and the establishment of a line of communication. Organization ensured efficient supply lines and communication. Raising irregular forces, introducing flexibility, enabling disruption of enemy movement and intelligence gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, addressing morale and leadership issue was essential to maintain the fighting spirit of the troops, and key engagements during this period provide the valuable lessons, highlighting successes and setbacks that inform future strategies. These strategic alignment made in response to the Jhangar setback were pivotal in refining India's military approach and ensuring long-term success in the conflict. So let's begin our journey. First, we'll discuss about planning and operations post Jhangar setback. Let's talk about what happened after the Jhangar setback in this December 1947. Picture this. The situation was tense and the stakes were incredibly high. After suffering losses, the Indian forces needed to regroup quickly. But instead of succumbing to defeat, they sprang into action. The leadership knew that there was no time to waste, and immediate steps were taken to reinforce the troops and shore up defensive positions. What does this mean exactly? It means rapid deployment. Troops and resources were quickly mobilized to where they were needed most. This was not just about holding the line, it was about preparing for a counter-offensive. The goal was clear, not just to defend, but to reclaim lost ground and push back with even greater force. Now think about the challenges they faced. Harsh winters, difficult terrains, and a relentless enemy. But despite all this, the morale of the troops remained high. The question will arise, why the morale? Why? Because they were well organized, well supported, and determined to protect the nation's sovereignty. The leadership demonstrated swift decision making and strategic planning, and this phase was critical. It was not just about numbers or firepower, it was about the will to fight back and the ability to adapt quickly to the changing circumstances. So friends, when we talk about regrouping and reinforcement post Jhangar, it is more than just a military maneuver. It is a testament to the resilience and the strategic brilliance under pressure. It is a perfect example of how even in the face of setbacks, with the right planning and the right spirit, you can turn the tide in your favor. Moving next, now let's focus on the revised military strategies after the Jhangar setback. This was a pivotal moment, and the Indian forces knew they needed to adapt. The setback at Jhangar was not just a loss, it was a lesson. A wake-up call that demanded a change in tactics. What do you mean by revised strategies? After analyzing the event that unfolded at Jhangar, the military leaders realized they could not rely on conventional tactics alone. They needed to be smarter, more agile, and better prepared. And this meant going back to the drawing board and updating their operation plans, not just defend, but to go on to offensive where possible. They studied the enemy's movement, understood their strategies, and most importantly, identified their weaknesses. The focus shifted to adapting tactics that could outmaneuver the enemy. This included using the terrain to their advantage, launching surprise attack, and employing more dynamic and flexible approaches. For instances, rather than just holding ground, the troops were now prepared to advance, retreat, or reposition quickly based on the real-time intelligence. It was about staying one step ahead, anticipating the enemy's next move, and countering it effectively. What is crucial to understand here is that these revised strategies were not just about military might. They were about smart thinking. The ability to learn from past mistakes and to turn a setback into a strategic advantage is what defines a strong military force. The Jhangar experience taught the Indian forces the importance of adaptability in warfare, and they used this knowledge to their advantage, reshaping their plans to ensure they were prepared for the whatever come next. So these revised military strategies were not just a response to a setback, but a proactive measure to ensure future success. It was about turning lessons learned into actions that would exploit the enemy weaknesses and secure a stronger position for India. Let's move on to the another crucial aspect of post-Jhangar operation: securing strategic location. After the setback, the Indian military knew they had to act fast and decisively. It was not just about regrouping or adapting their strategies. It was about identifying and securing key geographic sites that were vital for both defense and offense. Why were these locations so important? Well, controlling strategic sites mean denying the enemy access to area that could give them an advantage. Think of these as a high ground in a battle that provide not only a better view for the battlefield, but also control over critical supplies routes and communication lines. And by securing these locations, the Indian forces could disrupt the enemy plan and regain the upper hand. This was not just a defensive move, it was about going on to the offensive. The goal was to recapture the lost territory and prevent the enemy from establishing a foothold in key areas. This means prioritizing certain locations over other, deploying troops strategically, and ensuring that every move was calculated to maximize the impact. Imagine the challenge here: harsh weather, rugged terrain, and an enemy that was always looking for a way to counter. But the Indian forces were determined. They knew that by securing these strategic locations, they could control the flow of the battle, protect their own lines, and set the stage for future operations. So when we talk about securing strategic locations, we are talking about a deliberate and a focused effort to reshape the battlefield in favor of the Indian forces. It was about taking back control and ensuring that every piece of land, every hill, and every pass was fought for with the understanding that it could make or break the outcome of entire operation. The strategic foresight and determination were crucial in regaining the initiative and keeping the adversary on the back foot. Moving next, let's talk about the introduction phase to this critical phase: the deteriorating situation following the loss of Jhangar. Picture the scene, friends. The Indian forces had just suffered a significant setback. The loss of Jhangar was more than just a tactical defeat. It was a blow to the defensive line, creating a gap that urgently needed to be addressed. The situation on the ground was dire. Losing Jhangar meant that a key position was now in enemy hands, severely weakening the defensive structure that had been carefully built. The lines were stretched thin, and there was an immediate threat that the adversary could exploit this vulnerability to advance further. This was not just a minor hiccup, it was a potential game changer that required quick thinking and rapid action. What does this mean for the Indian forces? It meant that they had to act fast. Reinforcements were needed urgently, and not just any reinforcement, but well-coordinated, well-equipped units that could stabilize the situation and prevent further losses. At the same time, there was a need for tactical adjustments. The strategies that had been in place until then had to be re-evaluated and revised in the light of the new reality on the ground. And this was a moment of truth. The commander had to make swift decisions, balancing the need to shore up the defense with urgency for preparing for a counter-offensive. And it was clear that simply holding the line would not be enough. They need to regain the initiative and turn the tide back in their favor. So the deteriorating situations after the loss of Jhangar was not just about losing a piece of territory. It was about facing a critical juncture where every decision counted. It was about understanding the gravity of the situation and taking bold steps to adapt, reinforce, and prepare for the next phase of the battle. This urgency and decisive action were crucial to overcoming the challenges and ensuring that the setbacks did not turn into a full-scale disaster. Now let's talk about one of the most pressing issues faced during this time. That is the logistical challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, after the loss of Jhangar, it was not just about a tactical and strategic decisions that needed to be made. It was also about how quickly and efficiently troops and supplies could be moved to the front lines. And this, as you can imagine, was no easy feat. Imagine a scenario where every road, every bridge, and every supply route is either damaged or under threat. The infrastructure that had been in place was now disrupted, making the task of deploying reinforcement even more difficult. The challenge was not just about sending more soldiers to the battlefield. It was about ensuring they had the necessary supplies, ammunition, food, medical support, and equipment, and to sustain themselves and fight effectively. In such a situation, logistics became a critical factor. The ability to rapidly mobilize and transport resources could mean the difference between holding the line and losing ground. It required meticulous planning, coordination, and sometimes even improvisation. Every convoy that moved to the front lines had to be protected, every supply routes had to be secured, and every soldiers had to be prepared for possibility that they might be cut off from the rear. This was not just a test of military strength, it was a test of resilience and ingenuity. How do you ensure that supplies reach those in need when usual routes are no longer available? How do you keep the flow of resources going up when enemy is trying to disrupt it at every turn? The Indian forces had to come up with quick solutions. Rerouting supplies, using alternate paths, and sometimes even creating makeshift bridges or roads to get where they needed to be. These logistical challenges were immense, but they also highlighted the adaptability and determination of the troops and their commanders. It was about overcoming obstacles, thinking on their feet, and making sure that despite all the difficulties, they were ready to face the enemy. And this logistical effort was crucial in maintaining momentum and ensuring the forces at the front lines were supported and ready for the battles ahead. Now let's talk about the regaining the initiative after initial setbacks. After losing Jhangar, it became crystal clear to the Indian forces that they need to act swiftly and decisively to turn the tide to the conflict. The focus was on regaining the upper hand, and to do that, securing strategic locations were absolutely crucial. Why were these locations so important? Think of them as the chess pieces on the board. Controlling them meant controlling the game. By securing key geographic sites, the Indian forces could block the adversary's advances, cut off their supply lines, and disrupt their plans. It was not just about defense, it was about seizing opportunities to push back and reclaim the lost ground. The strategy was simple yet effective. Identify the most vital location that could change the course of the battle and then move quickly to secure them. This involved everything from recapturing lost position to fortifying areas that were under threat, and by doing so, the Indian forces could prevent the enemy from gaining any further advantage and start dictating the terms of engagement. But this was not just a matter of moving troops around, it was about smart, calculated decisions. The commanders had to carefully choose which location to prioritize, knowing that every move could have significant consequences. They had to think several steps ahead, anticipating the enemy response and planning accordingly. It was a delicate balance between offense and defense, between holding the line and pushing forward, and it paid off. By focusing on securing strategic locations, the Indian forces were able to regain the initiative and put the adversary on the defensive. This was a turning point, a moment when momentum shifted and it became clear that India was not just going to defend its territory but was determined to reclaim it. Regaining the initiative was about more than just military maneuver. It was about restoring confidence, boosting morale, and showing that despite the setback, India was ready to fight back and emerge stronger. This determination and strategic foresight were key to overcoming the challenges and setting the stage for future success. Let's delve into the relative strength of the forces during this critical period, focusing on the Indian force deployment. After the setback at Jhangar, the Indian military knew that they had to act quickly and decisively to strengthen their positions and prepare for what was to come. In response to the deteriorating situation, reinforcements were immediately rushed in to bolster their defensive line. And this was not just a routine deployment, it was a highly strategic move designed to stabilize the front lines and prevent any further advances by the adversary. The idea was simple: shore up the defense in key sectors to ensure the enemy could not capitalize on their recent gains. But it was not just about defense. The Indian forces also preparing for a counter-attack, and this required careful planning and significant reinforcements. They needed to be ready to not only hold the line but also to push back with strength and precision. The deployment across various key sectors was a calculated effort to regain control and take the fight to the enemy. Every move was meticulously planned. Troops were strategically positioned to cover the vulnerable areas and create a robust defensive network. This positioning allowed the Indian forces to not only defend effectively but also to launch counterattacks when the opportunity presented itself. The goal was clear: regain lost territory and ensure that the adversary could not penetrate deeper into the Indian territory. And this strategic deployment showcased the adaptability and resilience of Indian military. Despite the initial setbacks, they were able to quickly regroup, reinforce, and prepare for the next phase of operations. The ability to rapidly deploy forces and strengthen positions was crucial in turning the tide of the conflict, demonstrating the Indian military resolve to protect its territory and push back against the adversary. So when we talk about the relative strength of the forces, we are looking at the dynamic situation where swift and decisive action by the Indian military helped stabilize the front lines, set the stage for counterattacks, and ultimately shift the momentum in India's favor. Now let's look at the estimated strength of the enemy forces during this critical period. The adversary was believed to be numerically superior, which posed a significant challenge for the Indian military. And this was not just a minor disadvantage, it meant that the enemy had more troops on the ground, potentially more resources, and ability to launch more sustained attacks. Facing an enemy with superior number is never easy. It required a different kind of thinking, a different kind of strategy. And the Indian forces knew they could not rely on sheer numbers to match the adversary. Instead, they had to be smarter, more strategic, and more tactical in their approach. It was not just about holding the line, it was about finding ways to offset the numerical disadvantage and turn the table in their favor. How did they do this? by focusing on carefully tactical planning. And every move had to be calculated, every decision weighed against the potential response of a numerically stronger adversary. This meant using the terrain to their advantage, employing surprise and deception, and concentrating forces where they could make the most impact. It was about maximizing every asset, every piece of intelligence, and every opportunity to disrupt and outmaneuver the enemy. For the Indian military, this was not just a fight on battlefield. It was a test of strategy and ingenuity. They had to anticipate the enemy's moves and predict their plan and counter them effectively. This required not only strong leadership and quick decision making, but also a deep understanding of the enemy's strengths and weaknesses. The goal was clear: to neutralize the enemy numerical advantage by being faster, smarter, and more coordinated. And despite the odds, the Indian forces showed remarkable resilience and adaptability. They did not just defend, they launched counterattacks, took back strategic positions, and continually pressured the enemy. And this strategic approach, driven by careful planning and a deep understanding of the battlefield dynamics, allowed the Indian military to offset the disadvantage and ultimately shift the momentum in their favor. So when we consider the estimated enemy strength, we are not just talking about the numbers. We are talking about a strategic brilliance and determination required to overcome a seemingly unsurmountable challenge. It is a story of courage, adaptability, and the will to fight against all odds. Now let's turn our attention towards critical aspect of the campaign, that is strategic terrain control. After the setback faced by the Indian forces, it became clear that controlling the terrain was not just important, it was absolutely essential. The focus shifted to securing high ground and choke points, which are vital in any military campaign. Why? Because these positions allow you to control the battlefield, deny enemy mobility, and regain the initiative. So let's break this down. First, we'll talk about the high ground. High ground is advantageous because it gives a better vantage point. From elevated positions, troops can see further, fire more effectively, and defend more robustly. And securing these positions meant that the Indian forces could better observe enemy movement and plan their operations accordingly. It was not just about having a good view, it was about having control. And by holding the high ground, the Indian military could dominate key areas and make it difficult for the enemy to advance. And then there are the choke points, that's the narrow passage, like mountain passes, bridges, or valleys that funnel movement into the single path. These are strategic gold mines in any conflict. Controlling the choke point means controlling access, making it a powerful tool for defense and offense. And by securing these areas, the Indian forces could effectively block enemy movement, cut off supply routes, and force the adversary into disadvantageous position. This was not just about slowing the enemy down, it was about dictating where and how they could move. The importance of these positions cannot be overstated. Securing the high ground and choke points allowed the Indian forces to not only protect their own positions, but also to launch counterattacks with greater confidence and effectiveness. It put the enemy on the defensive and forced them to fight on terms set by the Indian military. In essence, it shifted the balance of power on the battlefield. The strategic focus on the terrain control demonstrated a deep understanding of the art of war. The Indian military knew that by denying the enemy mobility and securing key positions, they could regain the initiative and turn the tide of the campaign in their favor. It was about more than just holding ground, it was about using every advantage to outmaneuver and outthink the enemy. So when we talk about strategic terrain control, we are taking about a decisive factor in campaign, one that showcased the ingenuity and determination of the Indian forces to overcome their challenge and emerge victorious. Moving next, let's take a moment to discuss the Major General Kulwant Singh assessment of Indian forces during this challenging period. Major General Singh had a clear-eyed view of the situation on the ground. He recognized that numerically the Indian forces were at a disadvantage compared to the adversary. And this was not an easy position to be in. Being outnumbered can pose significant challenges in any military campaign. But here is the key insight. Despite this numerical inferiority, Major General Singh was tremendous potential in the Indian forces. He understood that success on the battlefield is not just about having more troops. It's about how you use the troop you have. And this is where his appreciation of Indian forces' capabilities really come into play. According to Major General Singh, with proper tactical planning and smart deployment, the Indian forces could still mount effective counterattacks. This assessment was crucial. It was not about being able to match the enemy soldiers for soldier. It was about leveraging strategic thinking, adapting to the evolving situation, and making the most of the resources at hand. He believed that with the right strategies, the Indian military could turn its numerical disadvantage into a tactical advantage. What does this mean in practical terms? It meant focusing on mobility, using surprise and speed to their advantage, and being able to strike where the enemy least expected it. It meant deploying forces in a way that maximized their impact, choosing battles carefully, and concentrating strength at the decisive points. Major General Singh's confidence was not based on a wishful thinking. It was grounded in a realistic understanding of what his forces could achieve with the right approach. This kind of strategic insight was vital for morale and planning. It told the troops that despite being outnumbered, they were far from outmatched. It was about instilling a sense of confidence and determination, about believing that with the right tactics and leadership, they could overcome the odds and succeed. So Major General Kulwant Singh's assessment was not just an evaluation of numbers. It was a testament to the spirit and capability of the Indian forces. It was a call to action, a reminder that effective planning and deployment could turn any situation around and lead to the victory. Now let's address one of the most daunting challenges faced by the Indian forces: enemy numerical superiority. The adversary's forces were estimated to be significantly large in number, creating a major obstacle for the Indian military. Imagine being outnumbered on the battlefield, knowing that all the enemies have more troops to deploy and more resources at their disposal. It is a tough situation to be in, and it poses a serious challenge that requires a strategic response. When you are facing a numerically superior enemy, every decision becomes critical. It is not just about having more soldiers, it is about the potential of the adversary to overwhelm positions, launch multiple attacks, and sustain prolonged engagements. This kind of numerical advantage can create psychological pressure and physical strain on the smaller forces, making every moment and every plan that much more crucial. So how do you counter this? For the Indian forces, the answer lay in careful strategy and tactical brilliance. It was not feasible to match the enemy troop for troop. Instead, focus on smart, calculated moves that could offset this disadvantage. This meant leveraging more strength, maximizing every advantage, and most importantly, outthinking the adversary at every turn. Strategies to counter a numerically superior force often involve using terrain to one advantage, employing guerrilla tactics, or focusing on highly mobile, quick strike operations that disrupt and demoralize the enemy. It's about creating confusion, hitting where it hurts, and avoiding direct confrontations where sheer number would play to the enemy's favor. By being unpredictable and adaptive, the Indian forces aimed to turn the table on their large front. And it worked. The Indian military ability to adapt and strategically plan under pressure showcased their resilience and tactical ingenuity. They used their knowledge of the terrain, their ability to move quickly, and their determination to protect their homeland to counter the numerical superiority of the enemy. It was about using brains over brawn and ensuring that every engagement was fought on terms favorable to the Indian side. So while the enemy's numerical superiority was a significant challenge, it was not insurmountable. Through careful strategy and effective planning and a deep understanding of the battlefield dynamics, the Indian forces were able to offset this disadvantage and continue to fight with determination and skill. Let's talk about the critical importance of strategic terrain control in this campaign. After facing initial setback of the Indian forces, knew that to turn the tide, they had to secure key terrain features like high ground and choke points. This was not just about holding territory, it was a tactical necessity to control the battlefield dynamics and regain the initiatives. So why are these terrain features so important? Think of a high ground as a natural fortress. From elevated positions, the forces could observe enemy movements, command a broader view of the battlefield, and defend more effectively. High ground provides a tactical advantage, making it harder for the enemy to approach without being seen or targeted. It allows forces to use less energy in defense and more precision in attack. And by securing these elevated positions, the Indian military could effectively deny the enemy free movement and make any advance costly and difficult. Choke points, on the other hand, are the narrow passages that restrict movement, like mountain passes, bridges, or narrow valleys. And controlling these areas is like holding a key to the battlefield. Whoever controls the choke points can detect the flow of movement, cutting off supply lines and forcing the enemy to funnel through areas where they are most vulnerable to attack. It is about turning natural geography into a strategic advantage, making every enemy move predictable and every response more powerful. For the Indian forces, securing these key terrain features was all about denying the enemy's mobility. And by holding the high ground and choke points, they could prevent the adversary from maneuvering freely, disrupt their plans, and limit their ability to concentrate forces where needed. It was not just a defensive strategy, it was an offensive move to control the battlefield and set the stage for launching counterattacks. This focus on terrain control demonstrated a deep understanding of military strategy. It was not about engaging in every fight, it was about choosing the right fight in the right place. And by securing strategic locations, the Indian forces could force the enemy into disadvantageous position and regain the initiative in the campaign. It showed that even when outnumbered or facing a strong adversary, smart use of terrain could turn the odds in their favor. So when we talk about strategic terrain control, it is about much more than just geography. It is about using every possible advantage to deny the enemy freedom of movement, protect your own forces, and create opportunities to go onto the offensive. It is a classic example of turning the landscape into a powerful ally in the battle for dominance. Moving ahead, now let's consider the possible enemy course of action and the threat they pose to the key locations like Uri, Poonch, Naushera, and Jammu. These were strategic hotspots, and the enemy forces recognized their importance just as much as the Indian military did. The threat to these areas was not just theoretical, it was real and imminent, making them crucial points of contention in the campaign. Why were these locations so critical? Each of these places, like Uri, Poonch, Naushera, and Jammu, had significant strategic value. They were not only pivotal for maintaining supply lines and communication routes, but also essential for controlling movement across the region. And if the enemy managed to capture or disrupt these locations, it would create major vulnerabilities in the Indian defensive setup, potentially allowing them to penetrate deeper into Indian territory. Take Uri and Poonch for example. Securing these areas was vital for controlling the northern approach and preventing the enemy from gaining a foothold in the region. These locations served as a gateway to further advances, and losing them would have meant giving the enemy access to the critical routes that could threaten larger region. Similarly, Nowshera and Jammu were key defensive outposts that safeguarded the heartland. Any breach here would not only jeopardize the defense but also potentially open the path to more devastating incursions. Understanding the importance of these locations, the Indian military had to act decisively. The strategy was clear. These strategic points had to be secured at all costs to deny the enemy any advantage. This was not just about holding ground, it was about making sure that enemy's advances were stopped in their tracks and that the Indian forces could maintain strong defensive positions across the region. By focusing on securing these areas, the Indian forces aimed to disrupt the enemy plan, limit their options, and force them into the less advantageous position. It was a strategy of anticipation and preparation, understanding that by holding these key locations, they could control the flow of battle and prevent the enemy from executing their potential course of actions. So friends, when we talk about the threat of to Uri and Poonch Nowshera and Jammu, we are talking about the broader strategy of denying the enemy any opportunity to advance. It is about recognizing the importance of these strategic locations and taking proactive measures to ensure that they remain firmly in the Indian hands. It was a critical component of maintaining a strong defense and keeping the upper hand in the campaign. Moving next, now let's delve into the likely strategies and targets that the adversary might pursue in this campaign. When you are up against a numerically superior enemy, understanding their potential strategies is key to preparing your defenses. In this context, it was clear that the adversary would look for any opportunity to exploit weaknesses in the Indian defenses and create maximum disruption. One of the most probable enemy strategies would involve targeting critical infrastructure and key population center. Why? Because striking at these vital points could achieve multiple objectives. First, it would disrupt Indian military operation by cutting off supply lines, communication network, and transportation routes. Infrastructures like bridges, roads, and railways are the lifeline of any military campaign. And without them, moving troops, supplies, and information became a Herculean task. Secondly, targeting population centers is not just about physical damage, it is about psychological warfare. By attacking civilian areas, the enemy could aim to demoralize the local populace and create chaos and fear. It is a tactic designed to undermine public confidence in the military ability to protect them, to weaken the resolve of both the civilians and the soldiers. The goal here is to create panic, spread uncertainty, and make the Indian forces more reactive than proactive. But it does not stop there. The adversary might look for specific weaknesses in the Indian defenses. Gap in the lines, area with fewer troops, or places where the terrain is challenging to defend. So by identifying and exploiting these vulnerabilities, the enemy could break through and cause significant damage before a proper response could be mounted. It is a classic tactic. Find the weak spot and hit it hard to create confusion and force a retreat. Given these likely strategies, the Indian military had to be incredibly vigilant. They need to fortify their defenses, protect critical infrastructure, and ensure that key population centers were secure. This meant deploying troops strategically, setting up strong defensive positions, and constantly monitoring for signs of enemy movement or potential threats. It also required flexibility and adaptability, being ready to respond quickly to any surprise or attack or sudden damage in the enemy's plan. By anticipating these likely enemy strategies and targets, the Indian forces could better prepare themselves to counter any moves, protect their assets, and maintain morale among the troops and the local population. It was about staying one step ahead, understanding that the enemy would try to exploit every weaknesses and being ready to defend against any possible threat. So when we think about the adversary's strategies and targets, it's not just about what they might do, but about how we prepare to counter it. It is about being proactive, protecting what is important, and ensuring that every possible move is anticipated and met with a strong and effective response. Moving ahead, let's talk about the critical importance of tactical adaptation in this campaign. After the setback at Jhangar, it became clear to the Indian military that adapting their tactics was not just necessary, it was essential. The lesson learned from this experience need to be swiftly applied to revise military strategies and tactics. This was not just about acknowledging a loss, it was about learning from it to ensure future success. Why is tactical adaptation so important in this context? The adversary had a numerical superiority, which put the Indian forces at a disadvantage. When you are outnumbered, you cannot rely on brute strength alone. Instead, you have to be smarter, more strategic, and more flexible in your approach. The setback at Jhangar served as a wake-up call that highlighted the need for the change in tactics, and one that would allow the Indian forces to effectively counter the enemy's number and regain the initiative. Adapting tactics means taking a hard look at what went wrong, understanding the enemy's strategies, and figuring out how to turn weaknesses into strength. It is about being proactive rather than reactive, anticipating the enemy moves and planning several steps ahead. For the Indian forces, this involved reassessing their defensive positions, improving communications and coordination, and deploying troops in a way that maximized their impact despite being outnumbered. One key aspect of tactical adaptation was focusing on mobility and flexibility. The Indian military needed to be able to move quickly, strike where the enemy least expected, and retreat if necessary to avoid being overwhelmed. This kind of dynamic approach meant that they could exploit any overextension or mistakes made by the enemy, creating opportunities to launch effective counterattacks. It was about being unpredictable and keeping the adversary off balance. Another crucial element was the use of terrain to their advantage. So by understanding the landscape better than the enemy, the Indian forces could position themselves in the way that neutralized the numerical superiority of their opponent. This meant occupying high ground, securing choke points, and creating defensive networks that made it difficult for the enemy to advance without facing significant resistance. And by applying these lessons from the Jhangar setback and adapting their tactics accordingly, the Indian forces were able to not only defend more effectively but also regain the initiatives. It was about turning a moment of adversity into a stepping stone for success, showing that even in the face of challenge, the ability to adapt and innovate could make all the difference. So the importance of tactical adaptation goes beyond just changing plan. It is about evolving in real time, learning from every encounter and using every experience to build a stronger, more resilient force. It is a reminder that in warfare, the ability to adapt can often be the key to victory. Moving next, let's discuss the Indian strategic intention following the challenges faced in the early phase of the campaign. After the setback at Jhangar, the primary focus of the Indian military was clear: reinforce defensive positions and prepare for counterattacks. This strategy was all about turning a defensive posture into an opportunity to regain the initiative and neutralize the enemy's numerical advantage. Why was this defensive posture reinforcement so crucial? When facing an adversary with superior numbers, holding strong defensive positions become a top priority. It is about creating a solid foundation that can withstand pressure, ensuring that the enemy cannot easily break through. The Indian forces knew that by strengthening their defensive lines, they could buy time, regroup, and set the stage for more strategic moves. It was not just about stopping the enemy, it was about creating a condition for the counter-offensive. Strengthening defensive positions involve a range of action: fortifying key locations, improving supply lines, and ensuring that troops were well equipped and prepared for any eventuality. It also meant using the terrain to their advantage, placing troops in a position that could maximize their defensive capabilities while minimizing the enemy's ability to exploit their numerical superiority. High grounds, choke points, and natural barriers were all leveraged to create a robust defensive network. But their strategy did not stop at defense. The Indian military's intent was not to remain passive. While reinforcing their positions, they were also preparing for a counterattack. The idea was to lure the enemy into overextending themselves or making mistakes, and then strike back decisively. This dual approach, strong defense coupled with readiness to counterattack, was designed to disrupt the enemy's plan and keep them off balance. So by preparing for counterattacks, the Indian force aimed to exploit any opening created by the enemy's movement. It was about being ready to shift from a defensive stance to an offensive one whenever the opportunity arose. This required careful planning, quick decision making, and a deep understanding of the battlefield dynamics. It was a strategy of patience and precision, waiting for the right moment to turn the table. And this approach showcased the India's military adaptability and strategic foresight. They knew that while the enemy might have a numerical advantage, numbers alone don't guarantee success. With strong defense and well-prepared counterattacks, the Indian forces could effectively neutralize this advantage and regain control of the campaign. So when we talk about India's strategic intention, it is about more than just defending territory. It is about creating a proactive defense that set the stage for regaining the initiative, demonstrating that with the right preparation and strategy, even a numerically inferior force can turn the tide in their favor. Now let's focus on the critical strategy of securing strategic locations during the campaign. For Indian forces, prioritizing the defense and recapture of key terrain features was not just a tactical move. It was a fundamental necessity. The goal was clear: deny the adversary mobility and access, and in doing so, regain the upper hand in campaign. Why was this focus on the strategic location so vital? In military terms, controlling key terrain features means controlling the battlefield. Whether it is a high ground that offers a commanding view, choke point that restrict the enemy movement, or vital supply route that sustain operation, these locations are the lifeblood of any military campaign. And by securing these areas, the Indian forces could disrupt the enemy's plan and limit their ability to maneuver freely. Take high ground for example. Holding elevated positions give a force a significant tactical advantage: better visibility, easier defense, and the ability to dominate surrounding areas. By defending these positions, the Indian military could make it incredibly difficult for the enemy to advance without facing significant resistance. It was not just about occupying land, it was about using the terrain to create a powerful defensive network that could repel attack and protect key assets. Choke points, on the other hand, are natural bottlenecks that force the enemy to move through narrow, easily defended spaces. And controlling these points means that Indian forces could channel the enemy into the areas where they were vulnerable, setting up ambush and launching counterattacks. It was a strategy designed to neutralize the enemy's numerical advantage by making every advance costly and every retreat a potential disaster. Recapturing lost terrain was also a priority. If the enemy managed to seize a strategic location, it was imperative to take it back swiftly. Allowing the adversary to hold key terrain could give them the initiative and open up new avenues for attack. The Indian military strategy was to respond quickly to any loss, regroup, and counterattack to regain control. This proactive approach ensured that enemy could not consolidate their gains, that the balance of the power remained fluid and contested. So by focusing on securing these strategic locations, the Indian forces could effectively disrupt the enemy's mobility and access. It was about controlling the flow of battle, dictating where and how the enemy could move, and creating opportunities for decisive counteractions. This focus on terrain control demonstrated a clear understanding of military strategy, knowing that by dominating the key points, they could turn the campaign in their favor. So securing strategic locations was more than just a defensive measure. It was a crucial part of regaining the upper hand in the campaign. It showed that with smart planning and decisive action, the Indian force could deny the enemy any advantage and maintain control over the course of the conflict. Now let's dive into the critical role of tactical adaptation and innovation in this campaign. After the setback at Jhangar, the Indian forces understood that simply sticking to the old ways of warfare would not suffice. They needed to adapt quickly, learn from their experiences, and innovate their tactics. This was not just about adjusting on the fly, it was about fundamentally revising their military strategies to effectively counter the enemy's maneuver and regain the initiative. Why is tactical adaptation so important in this context? The Jhangar setback highlighted several vulnerabilities in the existing strategies. The enemy was dynamic, exploiting every weaknesses and moving swiftly to take advantage of any lapse in the defense. The Indian military needed to be just as agile, responding to each challenge with revised tactics that could not only neutralize the enemy's advances but also turn the table. So applying the lesson learned from Jhangar meant a thorough re-evaluation of tactics. This involved analyzing what went wrong, understanding the enemy strategies, and identifying areas where the Indian forces could improve. It was about being proactive, anticipating the enemy's move and staying a step ahead. This led to a significant shift in how operations were conducted, focusing more on flexibility, speed, and unpredictability. One of the key changes was the emphasis on mobility and rapid response. The Indian forces started deploying smaller, more agile units that could move quickly and strike unexpectedly. This meant that hit and run tactics, launching surprise attacks, and avoiding direct, large-scale confrontations where the enemy numerical superiority could come into play. It was all about keeping the enemy guessing, never allowing them to settle or find a rhythm. Innovation also played a crucial role. The Indian military began incorporating new methods and technologies, improving communication and coordination between units, and using intelligence more effectively to anticipate enemy actions. This was not just about having better equipment, it was about smarter use of resources, better planning, and a more integrated approach to the warfare. By innovating in these ways, they could offset the enemy's advantage and create new opportunities to strike back. These revised strategies and tactics allowed the Indian forces to regain the initiative. Instead of reacting to the enemy, they began to detect the terms of engagement, choosing when and where to fight. This shift in the momentum was crucial. It restored the confidence among the troops and disrupted the enemy's plan, putting them on the defensive. So tactical adaptation and innovations were not just about survival, they were about seizing the advantage. And by applying the lessons learned from Jhangar and continuously evolving their strategies, the Indian forces demonstrated that with the right mindset and approach, they could effectively counter any challenge and regain control of the campaign. Moving next, let's explore the General Lockhart's appreciation of the situation and his understanding of the enemy's objective and threat. General Lockhart had a keen awareness of the adversary strategy and the critical importance of certain strategic locations in his campaign. He recognized that the enemy forces posed a significant threat to the key areas such as Uri, Poonch, Nowshera, and Jammu. These were not just any locations, they were pivotal points that could determine the success or failure of the Indian defensive efforts. Why were these locations so crucial? Each of these areas, Uri, Poonch, Nowshera, and Jammu, serve as a strategic anchor in the region. They were essential for controlling movements, maintaining supply lines, and protecting the broader territory from enemy incursions. Losing any of these points would create gaps in the defensive line, potentially allowing the enemy to advance deeper into Indian territory. It was not just about losing land, it was about risking the integrity of the entire defense strategy. General Lockhart understood that the enemy's primary objective was to exploit any weaknesses in these areas. So by targeting these strategic locations, the adversary aimed to disrupt the Indian defense, cut off communication and supply routes, and create a foothold for further advances. This was not just a matter of opportunism, it was a calculated effort to break the Indian defense posture and gain the upper hand in the campaign. To counter this threat, General Lockhart emphasized the need to secure these critical locations at all costs. It was about more than just holding ground, it was about denying the enemy any chance to gain an advantage. And by fortifying these positions, the Indian forces could create a solid defensive line that could be difficult for the enemy to penetrate. This strategy was all about preparation and foresight, anticipating where the enemy might strike and being ready to respond with strength and precision. Securing these locations also meant preparing for counterattacks. General Lockhart knew that simply defending would not be enough. The Indian forces need to be ready to strike back and to push the enemy back and reclaim any lost ground. This proactive approach was essential to maintaining momentum and ensuring that the enemy remained on the back foot, unable to consolidate any gains. So General Lockhart's appreciation was not just about recognizing the enemy's threat, it was about understanding the bigger picture. He saw the importance of these strategic locations and knew that securing them was key to denying the enemy any chance to advance. His focus was on maintaining a strong defensive posture while being ready to seize the initiative whenever possible, demonstrating a clear vision and a decisive leadership in a challenging situation. In essence, General Lockhart's assessments highlighted the need for vigilance, preparation, and determination. And by securing these strategic locations, the Indian forces could deny the enemy's objectives and maintain control over the course of the campaign. Moving next, let's examine the likely strategies the adversary might employ in this campaign. When you are up against a determined and numerically superior enemy, understanding their potential moves become crucial. The adversary, knowing the value of strategic impact, would likely focus on exploiting any weaknesses in the Indian defense and targeting critical infrastructures or population centers. This approach is about more than just military gains. It is a tactic designed to disrupt operations and demoralize the local populace. Why would the enemy focus on these particular strategies? It is simple. Attacking critical infrastructure and population center can yield maximum disruption with potentially minimal effort. So by targeting infrastructure such as bridges, roads, communication networks, and supply depots, the enemy could serve the line that are vital for military operations. This is not just about cutting off supplies, it is about isolating troops, delaying reinforcements, and creating logistical nightmares that hinder the overall effectiveness of the Indian forces. Population center, on the other hand, represent both a tactical and a psychological target. By striking cities and towns, the enemy could spread fear and uncertainty among civilians, undermining morale and creating chaos. It is a form of psychological warfare aimed at shaking the confidence of both the local population and the soldiers defending them. If people feel unsafe and doubt the military ability to protect them, it weakens the overall resolve to resist and fight back. Moreover, the enemy might also look for a gap in Indian defenses. Where the lines are thin, the terrain is challenging, or defense are less robust. These vulnerabilities could be exploited for quick, impactful strikes that aim to surprise and overwhelm the defenders. It is a classic strategy. Find the weak spot, hit it hard, and create as much disruption as possible before the defenders can regroup and respond. Understanding these likely enemy strategies, the Indian military had to prepare accordingly. This meant fortifying key positions, protecting critical infrastructure, and ensuring that population centers were adequately defended. It also required a dynamic and flexible approach to defense, being ready to adapt quickly to any threat and counter any moves the enemy might make. Anticipation and preparedness were key, knowing that the enemy would try to exploit any opportunity and being ready to close those gaps before they could be fully exploited. In essence, the likely enemy strategies were creating chaos and maximizing disruption. By targeting critical infrastructure and population centers and exploiting any weaknesses in the defense, the adversary aimed to break the will to fight and gain the upper hand in the campaign. Recognizing this, the Indian forces need to stay vigilant, protect their asset, and maintain a strong adaptable defense. So when we consider the likely strategies of the enemy, it is clear that battle was about more than just physical territory. It was about controlling the narrative, maintaining morale, and ensuring that every possible threat was anticipated and countered effectively. Moving next, let's delve into the General Lockhart's recommendation following the Jhangar setback. Ladies and gentlemen, after analyzing the situation, General Lockhart was clear. The lesson learned from the setback need to be applied swiftly and decisively. The Jhangar experience has revealed critical gaps in the strategy and tactics. It was essential to address these to effectively counter the enemy's numerical superiority and regain the initiative in the campaign. Why was this emphasis on learning from the setback so important? The Jhangar incident highlighted the reality of facing a numerically superior enemy. It underscored the fact that traditional tactics alone would not be enough against an adversary that had both the numbers and the momentum. General Lockhart recognized that in order to succeed, Indian forces needed to adapt, innovate, and rethink their approach on the battlefield. One of the key recommendations was revising military strategies to focus more on flexibility and adaptability. This was not just about changing the way troops were deployed, it was about creating a mindset that could respond dynamically to rapidly changing situations. General Lockhart understood that in warfare, especially when outnumbered, the ability to think on your feet and adjust plan on the fly could mean the difference between victory and defeat. He also stressed the importance of tactical innovation. This involved employing unconventional tactics that could offset the enemy's numerical advantage. For example, rather than engaging in direct confrontation where the enemy's number could overwhelm, he recommended using guerrilla tactics, ambushes, and rapid and unpredictable movements. This approach would not only surprise and disorient the enemy, but also allow the Indian forces to strike effectively without being bogged down in the prolonged battle. Another crucial aspect of this recommendation was the need to focus on intelligence and reconnaissance. Understanding the enemy's movement, intentions, and strength was vital for planning effective countermeasures. By gathering accurate intelligence, the Indian forces could anticipate enemy action, avoid potential traps, and exploit weaknesses. General Lockhart believed that being well informed was half the battle. It enabled the forces to be proactive rather than reactive, setting the stage for regaining the initiative. General Lockhart also emphasized the importance of morale and leadership. And after a setback like Jhangar, it was crucial to boost the morale of the troops, reinforce their confidence, and ensure that they are ready for the challenge ahead. Strong leadership, clear communication, and a unified vision were all essential components in rebuilding strength and preparing for future operations. In summary, we can say General Lockhart's recommendations were about more than just tactical adjustments. They were about a comprehensive overhaul of how the Indian forces approached the campaign. By applying the lessons learned from Jhangar and revising the strategies accordingly, the Indian military could effectively counter the enemy's numerical superiority and regain control of the battlefield. It was a call for adaptability, innovation, and resilience, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, smart planning and decisive action could turn the tide. So these recommendations were not just about recovering from setbacks. They were about setting a new course for success, ensuring that Indian forces were always prepared to meet any challenge head on and emerge victorious. Let's talk about the crucial role of the air support and logistics in the campaign. The availability of air support was a game changer for the Indian forces, providing them with the critical capabilities that significantly enhanced their operation on the ground. In a challenging battlefield environment, air support was not just an added advantage. It was a vital component that boosted both mobility and firepower. Now, first let's look at the reconnaissance. Air support allowed the Indian military to conduct extensive aerial recce, gathering vital intelligence on enemy movement, positions, and strategies. The bird-eye view of the battlefield was invaluable. It provided real-time information that helped commanders make informed decisions, anticipate enemy actions, and plan effective countermeasures. By knowing where the enemy was and what they were up to, the Indian forces could stay one step ahead, avoiding traps and positioning themselves for successful engagement. Then there is the aspect of transport. In a campaign where rapid mobility was key, air transport capabilities allowed the Indian forces to move troops, equipments, and supplies quickly across the challenging terrain. And this was especially important in areas where road access was limited or where ground routes were under enemy threat. Air transport ensured that reinforcements could be deployed swiftly to critical areas. Supplies could reach frontline units without delay, and casualties could be evacuated promptly. This logistical support was crucial for maintaining momentum and ensuring that the Indian forces remained well equipped and ready for battle. Close air support was another critical element. In situations where ground troops faced intense enemy resistance, air support provided a powerful tool to tip the balance. Fighter planes and bombers could deliver precision strikes against enemy positions, softening defenses, destroying fortifications, and neutralizing threats. This direct intervention not only enhanced the firepower of the Indian forces but also boosted the morale of the troops, knowing that they had strong air support backing them up. It allowed for more aggressive maneuver, giving ground units the confidence to push forward and engage the enemy effectively. The ability of air support, therefore, was not just about adding another dimension to the battle. It fundamentally changed how Indian forces could operate. It provided flexibility, speed, and additional firepower, all of which were crucial for countering a numerically superior enemy. And by leveraging air support, the Indian military could execute more complex operations, respond quickly to threats, and maintain a strategic advantage over the adversary. So when we talk about the importance of air support and logistics, we are looking at the critical force multiplier that enhanced every aspect of the campaign. It was about more than just planes in the sky. It was about ensuring that the Indian forces could move faster, hit harder, and stay informed, all of which were essential for regaining the initiative and achieving success on the battlefield. Now let's address the logistical challenges that Indian forces faced during the campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, logistical support is the backbone of any military operation, and in this case, disrupted infrastructure and supply chains posed significant hurdles. These challenges were not just minor inconvenience, they were substantial obstacles that directly impacted the ability to rapidly deploy troops, equipments, and supplies to the front lines, ultimately hindering operational readiness. Why were these logistical challenges so severe? First, consider the state of infrastructure. Many roads, bridges, and transport routes were damaged or under threat from enemy action. This made moving troops and supplies a complex and risky endeavor. And without reliable transportation routes, it was incredibly difficult to get reinforcement where they were needed most, or to ensure that frontline units had the necessary equipment and provisions to sustain their operations. Every delay, every broken bridge or blocked route created a bottleneck that could slow down the entire military effort. Supply chains were another critical issue. In any campaign, maintaining a steady flow of supplies, ammunition, food, medical supplies, and fuel is essential for keeping troops combat ready. But with disrupted supply lines, ensuring that these necessities reach the front lines became a massive logistical puzzle. It was not just about the physical delivery of goods, it was about coordination and securing those deliveries amidst the constantly changing and often dangerous environment. The enemy knew that cutting off supplies could cripple the Indian forces' ability to fight, so they targeted these supply routes relentlessly, adding to the challenges faced. Friends, deploying troops quickly was also a major concern. In fast-moving battle, the ability to rapidly reinforce key positions can be the difference between holding the line and being overrun. But with disrupted infrastructure, getting fresh troops to where they were most needed was not straightforward. It required careful planning, alternate routes, and sometimes even improvisation to ensure that unit could be moved effectively despite the obstacles. This strain on logistics often forced commanders to make tough decisions about where to allocate their limited resources, knowing that any delay could have serious consequences on the ground. These logistical challenges meant that maintaining operational readiness was a constant struggle. The Indian forces had to adapt quickly, finding creative solutions to get around the broken infrastructure and ensure that supplies and reinforcements reach the front lines. This involved everything from using air transport for critical deliveries to setting up temporary supply depots closer to the action. It was about being resourceful, flexible, and always ready to adjust to the realities on the ground. So when we talk about the logistical challenges faced during this campaign, we are looking at a critical aspect that affected every part of the military effort. Overcoming these hurdles required determination, ingenuity, and a relentless focus on ensuring that despite the disruption, the Indian forces could stay prepared, maintaining their fighting capability and continue pushing forward in their operation. Let's focus on the crucial importance of maintenance and supply in sustaining combat operation and preparing for counter-offensive. For Indian forces, ensuring proper maintenance and supply was not just a routine task. It was a vital lifeline that directly impacted their ability to overcome the enemy's numerical advantage and maintain momentum on the battlefield. Why was this so important? In any military campaign, particularly one against a numerically superior enemy, the ability to keep troops well supplied and equipment well maintained can mean the difference between success and failure. The enemy might have had more soldiers, but if the Indian forces were better supplied, better equipped, and better maintained, they could still hold the line and push back effectively. This is why a strong focus on logistics and supply was essential. Maintaining equipment was a key priority. Tanks, vehicles, artillery, and weapon system all need regular upkeep to stay functional. In the heat of battle, the last thing any force needs is for their equipment to fail. And this means that ensuring a steady supply of spare parts, fuel, and technical support was crucial. Well-maintained equipment not only perform better but also give troops the confidence to operate more aggressively, knowing their tools are reliable. Resupply of essential like ammunition, food, medical supplies, and fuel was equally critical. Combat operations can deplete resources quickly, and without timely supply, even the most well-trained and well-equipped forces can find themselves in a precarious position. Ensuring that troops had everything they need to fight and can survive was about more than just logistics. It was about maintaining morale and readiness. When soldiers know that their supply lines are secure and that they will have what they need, they are more likely to stay focused and fight effectively. Proper supply chains also enable the Indian forces to launch effective counter-offensive. To go on the offensive, especially against a larger enemy, require not just a manpower but also a significant amount of resources. Ammunition, fuel, medical support, and other supplies must be in place to sustain an attack and exploit any gains. And by ensuring these resources were available, the Indian military could seize opportunities to strike back, disrupt enemy plan, and regain the initiative. It was about being ready, not just to defend, but to take fight to the enemy whenever situations allowed. The focus on maintenance and supplies was about creating a resilient and capable fighting force. The Indian forces needed to be agile, adaptable, and always ready to respond to the challenges on the battlefield. This required a comprehensive logistics strategy that anticipated needs, addressed potential shortfalls, and ensured that every soldier had what they needed to succeed. So the importance of maintenance and supply cannot be overstated. It was a cornerstone of Indian military ability to sustain combat operations, launch counter-offensive, and ultimately overcome the enemy's numerical advantage. It highlighted the critical role of logistics in warfare, demonstrating that with the right support, even a smaller force could achieve great things on the battlefield. Now let's talk about the deployment of reinforcement and the introduction of new strategies, which were critical steps in countering the enemy's numerical superiority. In response to the pressing threat and to bolster their defensive position, the Indian forces made the strategic decision to deploy additional brigade. This move was about more than just adding numbers to the battlefield. It was a calculated effort to offset the enemy's advantage and lay the groundwork for effective counterattack. Why was the deployment of these additional brigades so important? Ladies and gentlemen, in the face of the enemy with the superior number, reinforcing defensive positions is essential to ensure that the lines hold and the integrity of the defense is maintained. The extra troops provided much needed manpower to cover vulnerable areas, strengthen weak points, and create a more formidable defense. It was not just about plugging gaps, it was about creating a resilient and a layered defense that could absorb attacks and still stand strong. These reinforcements played a vital role in boosting morale as well. For soldiers on the front, knowing that additional brigades are being deployed to support them helped to instill the confidence and determination. It reassured them that they were not fighting alone and the command was committed to doing whatever it took to maintain the defense and prepare for the next phase of operation. This psychological boost was just as important as the physical reinforcement of positions, contributing to a stronger, more unified fighting force. But deploying additional brigade was just one part of the strategy. Alongside these reinforcements, the Indian military introduced new strategies to make the most of their strengthened positions. This involved preparing for counterattacks, recognizing that a purely defensive stance would not be enough to turn the tide. The goal was to use the reinforced position as a springboard for launching effective counteroffensive, striking back at the enemy when they least expected it and regaining the initiative. These new strategies focus on flexibility and surprise. And with the additional troop in place, the Indian force could be more aggressive in their maneuver, looking for opportunities to disrupt enemy plan and create opening for attacks. It was about being proactive, using the reinforcement not just to hold the line, but to actively challenge the enemy's movement and keep them off balance. And by doing so, the Indian military aimed to shift from defensive posture to one that could dictate the terms of engagement. The deployment of reinforcement and adoption of new strategies demonstrated a clear understanding of the dynamics of the battlefield. It showed that Indian forces were not just reacting to the enemy but actively seeking ways to counter their advantage and regain control of the campaign. This approach was about resilience, adaptability, and a willing to take the fight to the enemy, ensuring that every opportunity to the strike back was seized with determination and strength. In summary, bringing in additional brigade and implementing new strategies was a crucial move in offsetting the enemy's numerical advantage and preparing for counterattacks. It highlighted the importance of being flexible, well prepared, and always ready to adapt to the challenges of the battlefield, demonstrating that with the right resource and planning, the Indian force could effectively counter any threat and push forward to the victory. Let's delve into the critical importance of optimizing logistics and supply routes in this campaign. For the Indian forces, restoring disrupted infrastructure and securing supply chains were absolutely essential tasks. This was not just about moving goods from one place to another. It was about rapidly deploying and sustaining forces at the front lines, ensuring that they had the resources and support needed to hold their ground and push back against the enemy. Why was optimizing logistics so crucial? In any military operation, logistics is the backbone that supports all combat activities. Without a well-maintained and a secure supply chain, even the best trained and the most well-equipped forces can find themselves at a severe disadvantage. In this campaign, the Indian military faced significant challenges with disrupted infrastructure, which had been damaged by the enemy action and harsh condition of the terrain. Roads were broken, bridges were down, and key transport routes were often compromised, making it incredibly difficult to move troops and supplies quickly and efficiently. Restoring these infrastructures was a top priority. Every road repaired, every bridge rebuilt, and every transport route secure meant that the supplies could flow more smoothly to the front lines. This work was not just about construction, it was about creating lifelines that kept the force fighting. The quicker these routes could be restored, the faster reinforcements could be deployed, and the better equipped the Indian forces would be to maintain their positions and respond to any enemy movement. It was a race against time to ensure that logistical support could keep pace with the demand of the battlefield. Securing supply chain was equally important. In a conflict zone, supply routes are constantly under threat from enemy attacks, sabotage, and natural obstacles. Ensuring that these routes were protected required constant vigilance and strategic planning. The Indian forces needed to secure not just the main road, but also alternative routes that could be used if primary paths were blocked or compromised. This redundancy was key to maintaining a steady flow of supplies, ensuring that troops at the front lines never went without the essentials they needed to continue the fight. Optimized logistics also meant better coordination and planning. It was not just about moving supplies, it was about moving them efficiently and effectively. This involved careful scheduling, managing resources to avoid bottlenecks, and ensuring that priority items like ammunition, medical supplies, and fuel reach the front line first. By optimizing these logistics process, the Indian military could sustain its forces in the field, maintain readiness and morale despite the challenges they faced. This focus on restoring infrastructure and securing supply chain was about more than just survival. It was about enabling the Indian forces to go onto the offensive. And with a robust logistic network in place, the military could plan and execute counterattacks with confidence, knowing that they had the supply and support to sustain operations over the long term. It allowed them to be more flexible, more responsive, and more aggressive in their strategy, turning logistical strength into a decisive advantage on the battlefield. In summary, we can say that optimizing logistics and supply routes was a critical element of Indian military strategy. And by restoring disrupted infrastructure and securing supply chains, they ensured that their forces were always ready to meet the enemy head on and sustain their effort in the face of adversity. It demonstrated the vital role that logistics play in the warfare, showing that with the right support, even the most challenging operation could be executed successfully. Let's focus on the strategic use of air support capabilities and how they played a vital role in the campaign. Leveraging air power was a game changer for the Indian forces, providing crucial advantage in the recce, transport, and close air support. In a challenging and dynamic battlefield environment, utilizing these capabilities was essential to enhance the mobility and firepower of Indian troops, allowing them to operate more effectively against a numerically superior enemy. Firstly, air recce was an invaluable asset. By deploying aircraft to survey the battlefield from above, the Indian military could gather real-time intelligence on enemy positions, movements, and potential vulnerabilities. And this bird-eye view of the situation allowed commander to make more informed decisions, anticipate enemy strategies, and plan their operation with greater precision. Knowing where the enemy was and what they were planning provided a significant tactical advantage, enabling Indian forces to respond swiftly and strategically to any threat. Transport capabilities were another critical aspect of air support. In areas where the terrain was rough and grounded routes were unreliable or disrupted, air transport provided a swift and efficient means of moving troops, equipment, and supplies. Helicopters and transport planes could quickly ferry reinforcement to front lines, evacuate wounded soldiers, and deliver essential supplies to the units cut off by the enemy action or natural obstacles. This ability to rapidly reposition forces and resources not only maintained operational momentum but also ensured that Indian troops were never left unsupported, regardless of the condition on the ground. Close air support added a powerful layer of firepower to the ground operation. Fighter jets and attack aircrafts could deliver precise, devastating strikes against the enemy positions, artillery, and fortifications. This direct support helped to soften enemy defenses, disrupt their formation, and neutralize key threats before ground troops moved in. The presence of air support also provided a psychological boost to the Indian soldiers, knowing they had the backing of aerial firepower ready to intervene and tip the balance in their favor during the critical engagements. By leveraging these air support capabilities, the Indian military significantly enhanced its overall combat effectiveness. The combination of real-time intelligence, rapid transport, and powerful close air support allowed for greater flexibility and adaptability on the battlefield. It enabled Indian forces to exploit opportunities as they arose, react swiftly to the changing circumstances, and maintain the initiative even when facing a larger enemy force. Utilizing air power also meant integrating these capabilities into a cohesive strategy that maximized their impact. This required careful coordination between air and ground units, ensuring that air support was available when and where it was needed most. It was about creating a seamless flow of operation where air and ground forces work together to achieve common objectives, leveraging each other's strength to overcome the enemy's advantage. In summary, leveraging air support capabilities was a critical component of Indian military strategy. And by utilizing air power for reconnaissance, transport, and close air support, the Indian forces could enhance their mobility and firepower, effectively countering the enemy's numerical superiority and maintaining a strategic edge on the battlefield. It demonstrated the power of air support in modern warfare, showing that with the right integration and execution, air power can significantly amplify the effectiveness of ground operations. Now let's delve into the establishment of line of communication. which played a pivotal role in enhancing the effectiveness of Indian military campaign. The creation of this centralized command and coordination structure was all about streamlining logistics, transport, and supply chain operation. In a complex and dynamic battlefield, this organization became the backbone of operational success, ensuring that every element of the military machine functioned smoothly and efficiently. Why was the establishment of the line of communication organization so important? In military operation, especially those conducted over vast and challenging terrain, efficient logistics are crucial. The Indian forces were operating in areas where disrupted infrastructure and supply routes, making it difficult to maintain a steady flow of troops, equipments and supplies to the front lines, and this is where the line of communication organization come into play. Its centralized command and coordination, bringing together all the aspects of logistics under one unified structure. And by having a centralized command, the line of communication organization ensured that all the logistics efforts were coordinated and streamlined. This meant that decisions about transport, supply chains, and support services could be made more quickly and efficiently, reducing delay and minimizing the risk of miscommunication or overlapping efforts. It was about creating a well-oiled machine where every part worked in a harmony to support the broader objective of the campaign. Transport was a key component, managed by the line of communication organization. Moving troops and supply rapidly and effectively was essential for maintaining operational momentum and ensuring that front lines were always well supported. The line of communication organization oversaw the deployment of transport assets, whether by road, rail, or air, ensuring that the most efficient routes and methods were used. And this centralized approach allowed for better planning and allocation of resources, making sure that no unit was left without the support it needed. Supply chain operations were also critical focus. Keeping the troops equipped with ammunition, food, medical supplies, and other essentials required a robust and a responsive supply network. The line of communication organization monitored and managed these supply lines, ensuring that they were secure, reliable, and capable of meeting the demand of the battlefield. By centralizing control over supply operation, the Indian military could anticipate needs, respond to the shortage, and maintain a consistent flow of material to the front lines. Moreover, the line of communication organization played a vital role in adapting to the challenges of the battlefield. It was responsible for finding solutions to logistical problems as they arose, such as repairing damaged infrastructure, rerouting supply lines, or rapidly deploying resources to where they were needed most. This adaptability was key to maintaining the effectiveness and resilience of the Indian forces, allowing them to overcome obstacles and continue their operations without significant disruption. In summary, the establishment of the line of communication organization was a strategic move that greatly enhanced the Indian military operational capabilities. And by centralizing command and coordination of the logistics, transport, and supply chain operations, the line of communication organization ensured that Indian forces could maintain a high level of readiness and responsiveness, effectively supporting their effort on the battlefield. It was a clear demonstration of the importance of logistics in military strategy, showing that with the right organization and planning, a well-supported army could overcome even the toughest challenge. Let's explore the reason behind the setting up the line of communication organization and why it was a critical move for Indian forces. The main purpose of establishing this organization was to overcome the disrupted infrastructure and supply chains, which were major challenge in the campaign. The line of communication organization was essential to enable the rapid deployment of troops and ensure sustained operations, keeping the Indian military effective and resilient in the face of adversity. Why was this necessary? During the campaign, the Indian forces faced significant logistical challenge. The infrastructure in many areas had been severely disrupted, with roads and bridges damaged or destroyed, and key supply routes under constant threat from enemy action. And this made it incredibly difficult to move troops, equipments, and supplies where they were needed most, risking delay and shortage that could jeopardize operations on the front lines. And to address these challenges, the line of communication organization was set up to centralize command and coordination of all the logistics, transport, and supply chain activities. By bringing these elements under one unified structure, the Indian military could streamline its operations, ensuring that all efforts were aligned and working toward the same goal. This centralized approach meant that decisions could be made more quickly, resources could be allocated more effectively, and any logistical issues could be addressed promptly. One of the primary reasons for establishing of the line of communication organization was to enable rapid deployment. In any military campaign, the ability to move troops and supply quickly and efficiently is crucial. And this is especially true when facing a numerically superior enemy, where speed and agility can be a key to gaining the upper hand. The line of communication organization oversaw the deployment of transport assets, ensuring that troops could be reinforced, supplies could be delivered, and equipment could be moved as needed to support the front lines. And this capability was vital for maintaining momentum and responding swiftly to any changes on the battlefield. Another key reason for setting up the line of communication organization was to ensure sustained operation. Keeping the troops well supplied and equipped over extended period of conflict require a robust and reliable supply chain. The line of communication organization managed these supply lines, overseeing the flow of ammunition, food, medical supplies, and other essentials to the front lines. Furthermore, the line of communication organization was crucial for overcoming the disrupted infrastructure. With many roads and bridges damaged or destroyed, the organization had to find alternative routes, repair critical infrastructures, and adapt to the constantly changing conditions on the ground. In summary, the reason for setting up the line of communication organization was clear: to overcome the disrupted infrastructure and supply chains. Second, enabling rapid deployment and sustained operation. This centralized command structure was essential for maintaining the effectiveness and resilience of the Indian military, ensuring that they could respond to the challenges of the campaign and continue pushing forward despite the obstacles they faced. It was a strategic move that highlighted the importance of logistics in warfare, demonstrating that with the right support, an army could overcome even the toughest challenge. Let's delve into the expected improvement in the operation and logistics that Indian forces aim to achieve through optimized supply and transport. The strategic goal was clear: to enhance the mobility, firepower, and operational readiness of the troops. So by focusing on these key areas, the Indian military sought to create a more agile, responsive, and a powerful force capable of meeting the challenges on the battlefield head-on. First and foremost, enhancing mobility was a critical objective. In any military campaign, the ability to move troops and equipment quickly and efficiently can often determine the outcome of engagement. And by optimizing supply routes and transport capabilities, the Indian forces could significantly improve their agility on ground. This means that reinforcements could be deployed rapidly to the critical areas. Units could be repositioned as needed, and supplies could reach the front lines without delay. Enhanced mobility allowed the Indian military to adapt swiftly to the changing circumstances, respond to the enemy movement, and seize opportunities as they arose. Improving firepower was another crucial aspect. To effectively counter a numerically superior enemy, the Indian forces needed to maximize their firepower. This involved ensuring a steady supply of ammunition, weaponry, and other combat essentials to the front lines. And by optimizing logistics and supply chains, the Indian military could ensure that their troops were always well equipped and ready to engage the enemy. This focus on firepower was about more than just having enough weapons. It was about maintaining a continuous supply that could sustain prolonged engagements, enabling the force to launch effective counterattacks and maintain pressure on the adversary. Operational readiness was also a key area of focus. Ensuring that the Indian forces were always prepared for the combat required a comprehensive approach to the logistics and supply. This meant not only providing the necessary equipment and supplies, but also ensuring that troops are well fed, well rested, and well supported. Optimized supply and transport operations meant that the Indian military could maintain a high level of readiness at all times, allowing them to operate with confidence and effectiveness. Optimized supply and transport also facilitated better planning and coordination. With a streamlined logistic network in place, the Indian military could more effectively manage resources, anticipate needs, and avoid bottlenecks. It was all about creating a seamless flow of operations where every element worked together to achieve common objective. Ladies and gentlemen, in summary, the expected improvement in operation and logistics through optimized supply and transport were aimed at enhancing the mobility, firepower, and operational readiness of the Indian forces. It demonstrated the critical role of the logistics in warfare, showing that with the right support and planning, an army could overcome even the most challenging obstacles and achieve success. Moving next, let's discuss the strategic decision to raise irregular forces and why it was a crucial component of the Indian military approach during this campaign. The need for irregular forces arose from a very clear objective: to supplement regular troops, offset numerical disadvantage, and enhance operational flexibility. In a conflict where the enemy held a significant advantage in numbers, incorporating irregular forces was a smart and effective strategy to level the playing field and create new opportunities on the battlefield. Why were irregular forces needed? When you are facing an adversary with superior numbers, every tactical advantage counts. Regular troops, while well trained and equipped, can be stretched thin across a large and demanding front. And this is where irregular forces comes into play. These units, often composed of local fighters, volunteers, or specialized troops, can operate with a level of agility and adaptability that regular forces might lack. And by raising irregular forces, the Indian military could bolster its rank without the time and resources commitment required for conventional troop deployment. Irregular forces provide a unique advantage in terms of flexibility and versatility. Unlike traditional units, they are not bound by some rigid command structure or standard operating procedures. This allows them to move quickly, strike unexpectedly, and adapt to the changing conditions on the ground. They can be deployed in smaller, more mobile groups that are ideal for tasks such as reconnaissance, ambushes, and hit-and-run tactics. And these operations can disrupt enemy supply lines, gather crucial intelligence, and keep the adversary off balance, all while maintaining a low profile and avoiding direct confrontations. Moreover, raising irregular forces is a strategic way to engage local population and leverage their knowledge of terrain. Local fighters are often intimately familiar with the geography, which give them an inherent advantage in navigating difficult landscapes and exploiting natural cover. This knowledge can be invaluable for planning ambush, conducting raids, or launching surprises attacks. And by integrating these fighters into a broader military effort, the Indian forces could create a more dynamic and unpredictable campaign that kept the enemy guessing. Another key benefit of irregular forces is the ability to operate independently and support regular troops in a more unconventional roles. They can provide crucial support in the areas where conventional units might be unprepared, unable to operate effectively due to terrain and enemy pressure. Irregular forces can act as a force multiplier, carrying out tasks that free up regular troops for larger operations. And this kind of supplementary support was essential for maximizing the overall effectiveness of the Indian military, allowing them to maintain pressure on the enemy while conserving their main fighting strength for a decisive engagement. Let's explore the strategy behind the recruitment of irregular forces and how this played a key role in bolstering defense effort during the campaign. The recruitment of these forces was not just about adding numbers to the rank. It was a deliberate move to leverage local knowledge and manpower to strengthen defenses and conduct effective guerrilla operations. This approach was all about using every available resources to its fullest potential, ensuring that the Indian military could fight smarter and more effectively against a numerically superior enemy. Why focus on recruiting irregular forces? The primary advantage lies in the intimate knowledge of the local terrain and their ability to operate in a way that regular forces might not. Local fighters who know the land like a back of their hand and can navigate challenging terrain, understand the best hiding spots, and utilize natural features to their advantage. This kind of local expertise is invaluable for conducting guerrilla operations, surprise attacks, ambushes, and raids that can disrupt enemy movement and supply lines while minimizing direct confrontations. Moreover, irregular forces can provide much needed manpower to bolster defense in the key areas. Guerrilla operations are another significant advantage of utilizing irregular forces. These tactics are all about mobility, surprise, and hitting the enemy where they least expect it. Irregular forces are ideally suited for this kind of warfare. They can move quickly, strike hard, and then disappear before the enemy has a chance to respond. Recruiting irregular forces also had a strategic impact on the local populace. And by involving local fighters in the defense effort, the Indian military could foster a sense of unity and purpose among the civilian population. This was not just a military strategy, but a psychological one, demonstrating that a fight was a shared effort and that everyone had a role to play in defending their homeland. This could boost the morale and encourage more civilians to support the military effort, whether through direct participation or other means, such as providing intelligence, supplies, or shelter. Let's delve into the training of irregular forces and why it was a crucial element of the Indian military strategy. The goal was to equip and prepare these irregular forces to operate effectively alongside the regular troops in combat. And this was not just about creating an auxiliary force, it was about building a cohesive fighting unit that could seamlessly integrate with conventional forces and contribute meaningfully to the overall campaign. Why was training irregular forces so important? Irregular forces, often composed of local fighters and volunteers, brought unique advantage to the battlefield, such as intimate knowledge of the terrain and the ability to conduct guerrilla operations. However, to maximize their effectiveness and ensure they could operate in conjunction with the regular troops, they needed proper training. This training focused on several key areas to enhance their combat readiness and ensure that they could contribute effectively to the first joint operation. Firstly, training focused on equipping these forces with the necessary skills and knowledge to handle more modern weapons and equipments. Many of the recruits might not have had formal military training or experience with the types of arms used by the regular military. And providing thorough instructions on weapon handling, marksmanship, and basic combat tactics, the Indian military ensured that these fighters were ready for the realities of the battlefield and could operate effectively alongside the regular troops. Secondly, training emphasized coordination and integration. Irregular forces had to learn how to work within the broader military structure, understanding the roles and the tactics of regular troops and how to complement them. This involved training in the communication, movement coordination, and joint tactical maneuver. The aim was to ensure that irregular forces could provide valuable support to regular units. Additionally, there was a strong focus on guerrilla tactics and unconventional warfare. While irregular forces were trained to operate alongside the regular troops, they were also prepared to carry out independent operations that leveraged their strength in mobility and surprise. This included ambushes, sabotage, hit-and-run tactics, raids, operations designed to disrupt enemy supply lines, gather intelligence, and harass enemy forces. And by honing these skills, irregular forces could serve as a versatile and unpredictable element on the battlefield. Training also aimed to instill discipline and cohesion among the irregular forces. While these units were often composed of fighters with diverse background and varying level of experience, it was crucial to build a strong sense of unity and purpose. This involved rigorous training, regiments, drills, and exercises that reinforced teamwork, discipline, and a shared commitment to the mission. By fostering a strong esprit de corps, the Indian military ensured that these forces could operate effectively under pressure and maintain high morale even in the face of adversity. Let's move and let's explore the vital role of intelligence improvement in the campaign and why accurate and timely intelligence was absolutely essential. Reliable intelligence served as an eye and ears of military operations, providing crucial insight that inform tactical planning and decision making. So for the Indian forces, having access to precise and up-to-date intelligence was key to effective countering the enemy's maneuver and gaining a strategic advantage on the battlefield. Why is accurate and timely intelligence so important? In any conflict, understanding the enemy's movement, strategies, and intentions can significantly influence the outcome of engagement. It is about being proactive rather than reactive, allowing commanders to anticipate the enemy actions and make informed decisions that can preemptively thwart their plan. This foresight is invaluable, particularly in complex and rapidly changing battle scenarios, where every piece of information can tip the scale. Accurate intelligence enables precise tactical planning, and by knowing the enemy's position, strength, and likely course of action, the Indian military could craft strategies that exploit weaknesses, avoid strength, and position their forces advantageously. Timely intelligence is equally critical. The battlefield is a dynamic environment where conditions can change in an instant. Delay in receiving intelligence can mean missed opportunities or worse, walking into a trap. And by ensuring that intelligence was not accurate but also delivered promptly, the Indian forces could respond swiftly to threats, adjust their tactics on the fly, and maintain the initiative. This ability to adapt quickly to new information kept the enemy guessing and ensured that Indian military could stay one step ahead. Improving intelligence capabilities also involved enhancing reconnaissance effort, both aerial and ground-based. Utilizing aircraft for surveillance provided a broad overview of the enemy movement, while ground reconnaissance element could gather detailed information on terrain and enemy positions. Furthermore, reliable intelligence plays a key role in boosting morale and confidence among the troops. When soldiers know that their commanders have a clear understanding of the enemy's capability and intentions, they are more likely to trust in the decisions made and feel secure in their own roles. This trust and confidence are vital for the maintaining high morale and ensuring that troops remain focused and committed to their mission, even in the face of adversity. Moving ahead, let's discuss the establishment of the Intelligence Bureau and its crucial role in supporting military operations and strategic objectives. The creation of dedicated intelligence agency was a strategic move designed to centralize the processes of information gathering, analysis, and dissemination. So by consolidating these functions under one organization, the Indian military aimed to enhance its ability to understand the battlefield, anticipate enemy actions, and make informed decisions that would drive success in the campaign. But why was establishing an intelligence bureau so important? In any military operation, intelligence is a critical asset. It provides the foundation upon which strategies are built and tactics are planned. And without accurate, timely, and actionable intelligence, even the most well-trained and well-equipped forces can find themselves at disadvantage. The establishment of Intelligence Bureau was all about creating a centralized hub where information from various sources could be brought together, analyzed comprehensively, and then disseminated to those who needed it most. Centralized information gathering was a key function of the Intelligence Bureau. This involved collecting data from multiple sources, including aerial recce, ground patrols, and intercepted communications, and report from local informants. It allowed for a more thorough and systematic approach to gathering information, ensuring that every potential source of knowledge was tapped into and utilized. This analysis was another crucial aspect of Intelligence Bureau role. Raw data on its own can be overwhelming and at times misleading. The real value of the intelligence comes from the ability to analyze it effectively, identifying patterns, predicting enemy behavior, and understanding the broader strategic context. And then comes the dissemination of intelligence. Ladies and gentlemen, dissemination of intelligence was final, but equally important, function of the Intelligence Bureau. Information is only valuable if it reaches the right people at the right time. The Intelligence Bureau was responsible for ensuring that the insights they developed were communicated promptly and effectively to the military commanders and strategic planners. This enabled decision makers to act quickly and confidently, knowing that their choices were based on the best possible understanding of the situation. It is about creating a seamless flow of information where intelligence drove operation and operations were informed by intelligence. Moreover, having a dedicated intelligence agency like the Intelligence Bureau fostered a culture of intelligence-led operation. It emphasized the importance of knowledge, preparation, and foresight in the military plan. And by centralizing these functions, the Indian military could create a more agile and responsive force, one that could adapt swiftly to changing circumstances and exploit opportunities as they arose. It was about turning intelligence into a strategic asset, one that could be leveraged to achieve operational success and strategic objectives. Moving next, let's discuss the strategic advantage of leveraging local knowledge and manpower through a recruitment and training of irregular forces. This approach was vital in supplementing regular troops, helping to offset numerical disadvantage and significantly enhancing operational flexibility. By tapping into unique strengths and capabilities of local fighters, the Indian military could build a more adaptable and resilient force, capable of responding effectively to the dynamic challenges of the battlefield. But why is leveraging local knowledge and manpower so important? In any conflict, especially one where the enemy has numerical superiority, every tactical advantage counts. Local fighters bring invaluable knowledge of the terrain, climate, and local population, which can be a game changer in planning and executing military operations. They understand the lay of the ground, the best route of the movement, and the hidden spot that can be used for ambush or staging areas. This intimate understanding of the local environment allows for more effective guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run operations, and surprise attacks that can disrupt and destabilize the numerically superior enemy. Recruiting irregular forces from the local population provide a significant boost in manpower without the long delay typically associated with raising and training conventional forces. These recruits often have a strong personal stake in the outcome of the conflict, which can translate into high level of motivation and commitment. They can be quickly trained in basic military skills, weapons handling, and small unit tactics, allowing them to integrate swiftly into broader military operations. This rapid expansion of force capacity is essential for filling gaps, reinforcing key positions, and increasing overall operational strength. Moreover, training irregular forces is not just about teaching them to fight, it is about building their ability to operate effectively alongside the regular troops. The integration was key to maximizing the effectiveness of both regular and irregular units, allowing them to complement each other's strength and mitigate each other's weaknesses. The use of irregular forces also enhanced the operational flexibility. This allowed them to operate independently or in support of larger operations, providing valuable recce, conducting raids, and executing flanking maneuvers. This kind of dynamic, fluid approach to the warfare is particularly effective against a larger, more rigid enemy force, creating opportunities for the Indian military to seize the initiative and dictate the tempo of the conflict. Moving next, let's explore the impact of reorganization and command changes on military operations during this campaign. The decision to implement reorganized command structure was a pivotal move aimed at streamlining leadership and coordination across the theatre of operation. By defining the chain of command and enhancing communication, the Indian military sought to optimize both their operational efficiency and logistical support, ensuring a more cohesive and responsive force on the battlefield. But why were these command changes necessary? In any military campaign, especially one conducted over a vast and challenging landscape, effective leadership and clear communications are critical to the success. The complexities of coordinating multiple units across different terrains and managing diverse logistical needs can create bottlenecks and slow down the decision making. The reorganization of command structure was designed to address these challenges by simplifying the leadership hierarchy and improving the flow of information, allowing for faster, more decisive action in response to the battlefield development. Streamlining leadership meant reducing the layers of command and enhancing the clarity of authority. And this approach aimed to minimize confusion and ensure that orders could be relayed quickly and accurately from the highest level of command down to the front lines. And by having a more direct line of communication, commanders could issue directives with greater speed and flexibility, adapting swiftly to the evolving situation on the ground. Reorganized command structure also focused on improving coordination across different units and branches of the military. In a campaign involving multiple divisions, brigades, and support elements, ensuring that all components are working toward the same goal was essential. And this new command structure facilitated better synchronization of efforts, allowing for coordinated attacks, well-timed reinforcements, and efficient use of resources. This level of coordination was vital for maximizing the effectiveness of military operations. Optimizing logistics was another key benefit of the reorganization. Efficient logistics are the lifeblood of any military campaign, providing the supplies, equipment, and support needed to sustain operations. And by streamlining command and enhancing coordination, the Indian military could better manage its logistic needs, ensuring that supplies were delivered promptly and accurately to where they were needed most. In addition to these practical benefits, reorganized command structure also helped boost the morale among the troops. A clear, well-functioning chain of command instilled confidence in the soldiers, reinforcing their trust in their leaders and their belief in the overall mission. When troops see that their commanders are making swift, informed decisions and that the entire military effort is well coordinated, they are more likely to remain motivated and committed, even in the face of adversity. And this psychological edge can just be as important as any tactical or logistical advantage, ensuring that the force remained united and resilient throughout the campaign. Moving next, let's discuss the significance of revising administrative and operational command and how this adaptation played a crucial role in enhancing the effectiveness of Indian forces. The decision to adapt organizational structure was driven by the need to improve mobility, responsiveness, and overall operational effectiveness against a determined enemy. This strategic shift was all about ensuring that Indian military could act quickly and decisively, maximizing their strength while minimizing vulnerabilities. But why was this revision of command structure necessary? In any military campaign, especially one involving dynamic and fast-moving operation, the ability to adapt quickly to the changing circumstances is vital. The traditional, more rigid command structure often hinders swift decision-making and can slow down the movement of the troops and resources. So by revising these administrative and operational command, the Indian military aimed to create a more agile and responsive force, capable of executing complex maneuver and responding to the enemy actions with speed and precision. One of the key objectives of this revised command structure was to enhance mobility. Mobility is a critical factor in any military operation, as it allows the forces to move quickly across the battlefield, seize key positions, and exploit opportunities as they arise. Improving responsiveness was another crucial aspect of revised command. In a complex battlefield environment where the situation can change in an instant, the ability to make quick, informed decisions is essential. The new command structure aimed to streamline the decision-making process, reducing the layer of hierarchy and ensuring that commanders at all levels had the authority and flexibility to act swiftly when needed. This enhanced responsiveness allowed the Indian military to react to the threat more effectively, whether they meant reinforcing a vulnerable position, launching a counterattack, or adapting to the new intelligence. Furthermore, adapting administrative and operational command helped foster a more dynamic and proactive military culture. With a focus on flexibility and responsiveness, commanders and troops were encouraged to think creatively, take initiative, and adapt to the challenges of the battlefield. And this culture of adaptability was crucial for maintaining an edge over the enemy, allowing the Indian forces to continually evolve their tactics and strategies to counter new threats and exploit emerging opportunities. Let's talk about the strategic importance of establishing a centralized line of communication organization and how it played a vital role in campaign. This centralized organization was key to enabling rapid deployment, sustaining operations, and optimizing supply chains, particularly in the face of disrupted infrastructure. So by centralizing these crucial logistical functions, the Indian military could ensure a more effective and efficient response to the complex demand of the battlefield. Why was the creation of a centralized line of communication organization so essential? In any military operation, especially one conducted across a vast and challenging terrain, maintaining clear and reliable line of communication is critical. Disrupted infrastructure, such as damaged roads, bridges, and railway, can severely hamper the movement of troops, equipments, and supplies, creating bottlenecks that slow down operations and reduce combat effectiveness. The line of communication organization was established to address these challenges head-on by streamlining logistics, transport, and supply chain management under one cohesive infrastructure. And one of the primary benefits of centralized line of communication organization was the ability to enable rapid deployment. When facing a dynamic and fast-moving enemy, the ability to quickly deploy reinforcements and repositioning force is crucial. The line of communication organization ensured that transport assets were coordinated and prioritized effectively, allowing troops and equipment to move swiftly to where they were needed most. Sustaining operations was another critical function of line of communication organization. Prolonged military campaign require a continuous flow of supply from ammunition and the fuel to food and medical equipment. So by centralizing control over supply chains, the line of communication organization could better anticipate logistical needs, manage resources, and ensure that supplies were delivered efficiently to the front lines. Optimizing supply chains was a key focus of the line of communication organization. In an environment where infrastructure was often damaged or unreliable, finding the most effective routes and methods for delivering supplies was essential. The centralized command structure allowed for better planning and coordination of supply routes, ensuring that alternative paths could be identified and used if primary routes were compromised. Additionally, the line of communication organization played a vital role in offsetting the impact of disrupted infrastructure. And with a centralized system in place, the Indian military could quickly assess and address any logistical challenges that arose, whether that meant repairing damaged infrastructure, establishing temporary supply depot, or rerouting transport to avoid enemy interference. This proactive approach ensured that operations could continue smoothly regardless of the difficulties presented by the terrain or the enemy. Moving next, let's discuss the importance of addressing morale and leadership issue and how crucial it is to boost morale among troops. In any military campaign, maintaining high morale is vital for effectiveness and resilience of the force, especially when facing the significant challenges or adversity. So when soldiers are motivated and confident in their leadership, they are more likely to perform at their best, stay committed to their mission, and overcome obstacles with determination and strength. Why is boosting morale so important? At its core, morale reflects the confidence, enthusiasm, and discipline of the troops. Maintaining high morale starts with strong leadership. Effective leaders inspire confidence and provide clear direction, especially in the time of crisis. Another key component of boosting morale is ensuring that the troops feel valued and supported. This means recognizing their efforts, addressing their needs, and providing their well-being. Building a strong sense of purpose and unity also plays a vital role in boosting morale. Soldiers need to feel that they are part of something larger than themselves and their efforts are contributing to the meaningful cause. Furthermore, morale can be bolstered by maintaining effective communication and providing regular update on the progress of the campaign. When soldiers are informed about overall situation and successes being achieved, it reinforces their belief in the mission and helps them to feel connected to the larger effort. And this ongoing communication helps to mitigate uncertainty and anxiety, providing reassurance and clarity in the time of doubt. Next, delve into the importance of strengthening leadership within the military and how effective leadership empowers troops, foster unit cohesion, and enable coordinated action to overcome the challenges. Why is effective leadership so vital? Ladies and gentlemen, leadership is about providing direction, inspiration, and support. It empowers troops by giving them clear guidance and purpose. When soldiers understand their objective and trust in their leaders, they are more motivated and confident in their action. Effective leadership set an example, demonstrating courage, integrity, and commitment which inspire their troops to follow suit. Fostering unit cohesion is another critical aspect of unit leadership. In the chaos of battle, unit cohesion, the bond that holds the soldiers together, is essential for maintaining order and effectiveness. Cohesion is built through shared experiences, mutual respect, and a collective commitment to the mission. Coordinated action is also a fundamental outcome of the effective leadership. On the battlefield, success often depends on the ability to coordinate complex operations involving multiple units and assets. Effective leaders ensure that their troops understand their roles and how their actions fit into a larger plan. Strong leadership also involves decision making under pressure. In the heat of the battle, leaders are often required to make quick and high-stake decisions that can have far-reaching consequences. Moreover, effective leadership fosters resilience in the face of adversity. Military operations are inherently unpredictable, and setbacks are an inevitable part of any campaign. Strong leaders help their troops navigate these difficulties by maintaining a positive outlook, encouraging perseverance, and reinforcing the importance of the mission. And by demonstrating resilience, themselves, leaders set the tone for their troops, helping them stay motivated and focused despite the obstacles they encounter. Moving next, let's explore the measures that can be implemented to improve morale and leadership within the military, and how these initiatives can reinvigorate the forces and enhance their combat readiness. In any military campaign, addressing morale and leadership issue is crucial for maintaining an effective fighting force. So by focusing on initiatives that boost morale and strengthen leadership, the Indian military can ensure that its troops are motivated, resilient, and ready to face the challenges of the battlefield. High morale and strong leadership are fundamental to any success to any military operation. Troops who are confident, motivated, and well-led are more likely to perform effectively under pressure, maintain discipline, and stay committed to their mission. One key measure to improve morale is enhancing communication between leaders and the troops. And another important initiative is providing opportunities for rest and recuperation. Military operations are physically and mentally demanding, and prolonged period of combat can lead to fatigue and burnout. These small but meaningful actions can help the troops recharge and return to their duty with reward energy and focus. Next, about the recognition and reward system can also play a significant role in boosting morale. Soldiers who feel that their hard work and dedication are recognized are more likely to remain motivated and committed. Additionally, fostering a sense of camaraderie and team spirit is crucial. Encouraging teamwork, supporting unit cohesion, and creating opportunities for soldiers to bond and build relationships can help to create a strong, united force. Moving next, let's delve into the importance of analyzing key engagements and their outcomes, and how understanding these major battles and their impact is crucial for strategic direction of the military operation. The outcome of the key engagements often have far-reaching implications that shape the course of campaign. So by carefully examining these battles, the Indian military can gain insight into the enemy's strategies, assess the effectiveness of their own tactics, and make necessary adjustments to enhance their overall combat effectiveness. Why is it so important to analyze the outcome of major battles? Each engagement on the battlefield provides a valuable information about the strength and weaknesses of both the Indian forces and their adversaries. Understanding what worked and what didn't allow military leaders to adapt their tactics and strategies to better counter the enemy. It is about learning from each encounter, whether it is a victory or a setback, and using that knowledge to refine operations and improve future performance. Take for example the lesson learned from the major battle where the Indian forces successfully defended a key position. And by analyzing the tactics used in this engagement, commanders can identify what contributed to their success, whether it was effective use of terrain, superior firepower, or unit cohesion. On the other hand, examining battles where the Indian forces faced setbacks is equally important. Understanding the reason behind the defeat, whether due to inadequate preparation, logistical challenges, or tactical errors, can provide critical lessons for future operations. So by identifying and addressing these shortcomings, the military can develop strategies to avoid similar pitfalls and strengthen their overall combat effectiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, analyzing key engagements also help to understand the enemy's strategy and intention. Each battle reveals something about how the adversary think and operate, their preferred tactics, and their strengths and weaknesses, and their willingness to take risks. So by studying these patterns, the Indian military can anticipate the enemy's next move, develop counter strategies, and exploit any vulnerabilities. And this level of strategic insight is invaluable for staying one step ahead of the adversary and maintaining control of the battlefield. Moving next, let's explore the importance of evaluating the tactical success and failure of the Indian forces during the campaign. Analyzing both victories and setback is crucial for gaining valuable lessons that can be used to improve operational effectiveness. So by thoroughly assessing these experiences, the Indian military can understand what worked well, what needed to be improved, and how to adapt strategies to meet future challenges more effectively. Why it is so important to evaluate tactical performance? In the heat of the battle, every decision, maneuver, and tactics can have significant consequences. So understanding the factor that led to success is in one engagement or failure in another allow military leaders to refine their approach and enhance their effectiveness on the battlefield. This process of continuous assessment and learning is key to developing a more adaptable and resilient fighting force, capable of responding to a wide range of scenario and threat. Let's consider tactical success first. Evaluating victories is about more than just celebrating achievements. It is about understanding why those successes occurred and will the Indian forces effectively use the terrain to their advantage. Were there superior planning and coordination among units? Did the troops demonstrate exceptional skill or morale under pressure? By identifying the key elements that contributed to a successful outcome, commanders can reinforce those tactics and strategies in future operations, ensuring that lessons learned from each victory are integrated into standard military practices. On the other hand, examining tactical failure is equally important. Setbacks on the battlefield can be tough, but they also provide some of the most powerful lessons. Understanding why an operation didn't go as planned, whether due to the lack of preparation, poor communication, unexpected enemy tactics, or logistical challenges, allow the military to identify weaknesses and areas for improvement. Tactical evaluation also helps in recognizing patterns and adapting strategies accordingly. For example, if repeated assessments show that certain enemy tactics are consistently causing problems, the Indian military can develop counter tactics to neutralize those threats. Similarly, if certain approaches prove consistently successful, those tactics can be expanded and adapted to different contexts. Moreover, evaluating tactical performance is crucial for fostering a culture of continuous improvement within the military. And by encouraging the mindset that values learning from both the success and failures, leaders can inspire their troops to remain engaged, think critically, and always strive for excellence. This culture of reflection and adaptation helps build a more cohesive and effective fighting force, where every soldier understands the importance of their role and is committed to contributing to the success of the mission. Let's focus on the importance of adapting strategies and leveraging strength in a military campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, revising military strategies and tactics based on lessons learned from past engagements while capitalizing on inherent strength of the Indian forces is crucial for regaining the initiative and overcoming the enemy's numerical advantage. This approach ensures that Indian military remains dynamic, flexible, and effective even when facing a larger and well-equipped adversary. Why is adapting strategy so vital? Warfare is inherently unpredictable, and the conditions on the battlefield can change rapidly. A strategy that worked well in one situation might not be effective in another. This is why it is essential to continually revise and adapt strategies and tactics based on the real-world experience and evolving circumstances. By learning from both success and setbacks, the Indian military can refine their approach, avoid repeating mistakes, and find new ways to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. One of the critical elements of adapting strategies is identifying and leveraging the strength of the Indian forces. Every military has unique strength, whether it is superior training, better knowledge of terrain, or a more motivated and resilient fighting force. So by focusing on these strengths and finding ways to maximize them, the Indian military can create a powerful advantage on the battlefield. For instance, if the Indian forces have better knowledge of local terrain, they can use this to conduct ambush, set up defensive positions, or move troops more effectively. So revising military strategies also involve being flexible and creative in response to the enemy tactics. If the adversary has a numerical advantage, as was often the case, the Indian military might focus on guerrilla tactics, using smaller, more agile units to harass and disrupt the enemy, rather than engaging in the large-scale battles where the enemy's numbers could overwhelm them. This approach allowed the Indian forces to conserve their strength, strike unexpectedly, and keep the enemy off balance. Adapting strategies also require a willingness to innovate and take calculated risks. The military might be open to new ideas and new ways of thinking, whether it means employing unconventional tactics, integrating new technologies, or developing creative logistic solutions. Furthermore, leveraging strength is not just about tactics. It is also about mindset and morale. A well-led, motivated force that believes in its mission and its capabilities can achieve remarkable things even when outnumbered or outgunned. And by fostering a strong sense of purpose and unity, and by ensuring that every soldier understands their role and their value of team, the Indian military can build a resilient and effective fighting force. Moving next, let's discuss the lesson learned from the campaign, particularly the importance of flexibility and adaptability. The ability to rapidly revise tactics and strategies based on the lessons from the setbacks was crucial for Indian forces. This adaptability allowed them to effectively counter enemy maneuver and regain the initiative in a challenging and dynamic battlefield environment. So why are flexibility and adaptability so important in military operations? Ladies and gentlemen, in a warfare, the situation on the ground can change rapidly, often in unpredictable ways. A plan that seems solid at outset might need to be altered quickly in response to a new development, such as unexpected enemy movement, changing weather conditions, or logistical challenges. So the ability to adapt and revise tactics and strategies in real time is essential for maintaining a static advantage. It allows military forces to respond effectively to unforeseen challenges, capitalize on emerging opportunities, and keep the enemy off balance. For the Indian forces, flexibility meant being able to adjust their approach based on what was happening on the battlefield. This required a willingness to change tactics, try new strategies, and even abandon plans that were no longer effective. Adaptability was equally crucial. It involved learning from both successes and setbacks, understanding what worked and what didn't, and making necessary adjustments to improve future performance. When the Indian force encountered setbacks, they did not view them as failure, but as an opportunity to learn and grow stronger. And by analyzing what went wrong and why, they could identify weaknesses, refine their tactics, and avoid making the same mistakes in the future. The importance of flexibility and adaptability also extended to the leadership. Effective leaders needed to be able to make quick decisions under pressure, communicate clearly with their troops, and inspire confidence even in the challenging situations. By rapidly revising tactics and strategies based on the lesson learned, the Indian forces were able to counter enemy maneuver and regain the initiatives. This adaptability ensured that they could respond to the enemy action with agility and precision, turning setbacks into the opportunities and maintaining control of the battlefield. Moving next, let's talk about the crucial role of strengthening logistics and supply chains in the military operation. Ladies and gentlemen, optimizing transport infrastructure and supply lines is essential for rapidly deploying and sustaining troops at the front lines. In any military campaign, effective logistics are the backbone that support combat operations, ensuring that forces have the resources they need to maintain momentum and respond effectively to the enemy action. In the heat of the battle, the ability to quickly move troops, equipments, and supplies can make all the difference between success and failure. Efficient logistics ensure that frontline units are well supported with a steady flow of ammunition, food, medical supplies, and reinforcements. So, optimizing transport is a key component of effective logistics. In a campaign, especially one conducted over difficult terrain or in areas with limited infrastructure, moving troops and supplies quickly and efficiently is a significant challenge. Next comes the infrastructure. Infrastructure plays a vital role in logistics as well. In many cases, existing infrastructure may be inadequate or damaged, requiring significant repair or upgrade to support the military operations. Strengthening infrastructure means building or repairing roads, bridges, airstrips, and other facilities that are essential for movement of the troops and supplies. Ladies and gentlemen, supply lines are the lifelines that keep military force operational. Optimizing these lines involve ensuring that supplies are transported efficiently from their part of origin to the front lines with minimal delay and disruption. So, strengthening logistics and supply chains also involve adapting to the realities of the battlefield. This might mean finding alternate routes where primary roads are blocked or developing innovative solutions to overcome logistical challenges. Flexibility and creativity are key to maintaining effective supply chains, ensuring that the military can continue to operate effectively in the face of unexpected obstacles. Moving next, let's discuss the importance of enhancing intelligence capability and how reliable intelligence empowers tactical planning and decision making. In military operations, having accurate and timely intelligence is a game changer. It allows commander to make informed decisions, anticipate the enemy move, and effectively counter the adversary action. So, enhancing intelligence capability is crucial for maintaining a strategic edge on the battlefield and ensuring that forces are always prepared for whatever challenges come their way. In any conflict, the ability to gather and analyze information about enemy's movement, intentions, and capabilities is essential for planning and executing successful operations. So, without reliable intelligence, military forces operate in the dark, reacting to the events rather than shaping them. So, with accurate and up-to-date intelligence, however, commanders can anticipate enemy actions, plan, and their own strategies accordingly. One of the key benefits of enhanced intelligence capabilities is improved tactical planning. When commanders have a clear picture of the battlefield, including the enemy's position, strength, and weaknesses, they can develop more effective strategies and tactics. And this might involve identifying vulnerable points in the enemy defenses, planning flanking maneuvers to outmaneuver them, or positioning troops to block unexpected or expected advances. Reliable intelligence also supports effective decision making. On the battlefield, situation can change rapidly, and commanders must often make quick decisions with limited information. Enhanced intelligence capabilities provide the data needed to make those decisions with confidence, reducing uncertainty and helping to avoid costly mistakes. Additionally, intelligence plays a crucial role in countering the enemy action. So, by monitoring the adversary movement and communication, the military can anticipate attacks, disrupt supply lines, or intercept plans before they are executed. This proactive approach allows forces to neutralize threat before they materialize, maintain the upper hand, and keeping the enemy on the defensive. Ladies and gentlemen, enhancing intelligence capability involves investing in both human and technological resources. This includes training skilled analysts who can interpret data and identify patterns, as well as deploying advanced surveillance and reconnaissance equipment to gather information from the field. Moreover, reliable intelligence boosts morale and confidence among troops. Soldiers who know that their commanders have a clear understanding of the enemy's capability and intentions are more likely to trust in their leadership and remain committed to the mission. This trust is crucial for maintaining high morale and ensuring that troops stay focused and motivated. even in the face of adversity. Moving next, let's discuss the significance of strategic development and adjustment of the new strategies and tactics in response to the challenge on the battlefield. Following the setback at Jhangar, the Indian forces recognized the need to revise the military strategies and tactics. And by learning from their experience and adapting their approach, they were able to effectively counter the enemy's numerical advantage and regain the initiative in the campaign. These strategic adjustments were crucial for transforming setbacks into opportunities and maintaining a strong position on the battlefield. So why were these new strategies and tactics so important? In any military conflict, the ability to learn from experience and adapt accordingly is vital. The setback at Jhangar provided the Indian forces with valuable lessons about the strength and weaknesses of their tactics, the capabilities of their adversary, and the dynamics on the battlefield. By analyzing what went wrong and why, military leaders could identify areas for improvement and develop new strategies that addressed these shortcomings. One of the main strategic adjustments involved shifting from traditional conventional tactics to the more flexible and dynamic approach. The enemy's numerical advantage meant that large-scale direct confrontations were often unfavorable for the Indian forces. Instead, they need to employ tactics that could offset the advantage, such as guerrilla warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and ambushes. These tactics allowed the Indian forces to use their mobility and knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. Another key aspect of the revised strategy was the emphasis on the rapid response and adaptability. The Indian forces needed to be able to react quickly to the changing circumstances, whether they meant reinforcing a position under attack, exploiting a gap in the enemy defense, or withdrawing to avoid being encircled. Revised tactics also included better use of intelligence and reconnaissance to anticipate enemy movement and plan operations accordingly. The Jhangar setback underscored the importance of having accurate and timely information about the enemy action and intentions. So by investing in improved intelligence capability such as aerial surveillance and ground recce, the Indian forces could gain a clearer picture of the battlefield and make more informed decisions. Furthermore, these strategic adjustments emphasize the importance of morale and psychological resilience. The setback at Jhangar was a challenging moment for the Indian forces, but it also served as a rallying point, strengthening their resolve and determination. So by focusing on lessons learned and committing to a more adaptive and proactive approach, the Indian military could rebuild confidence among the troops and maintain a strong fighting spirit. Let's talk about the crucial role of optimizing logistics and supply chains in the military operations. Streamlining transport infrastructure and supply lines is vital for ensuring the rapid deployment and sustained operation of the troops, especially when faced with disrupted logistics. So for Indian forces, optimizing these logistical elements was key to overcoming challenges on the battlefield and maintaining a steady, reliable flow of resources on the front lines. In any conflict, the ability to move troops, equipment, and supplies efficiently is fundamental to the success. Logistics are the backbone of military operation. They provide the necessary support that keep the soldiers well equipped, fed, and ready to fight. So when logistics are disrupted, whether by enemy action, difficult terrain, or damaged infrastructure, it can severely impact the effectiveness of military operations. One of the key aspects of optimizing logistics was improving transport capability. This involved enhancing the ability to move troops and supply quickly and efficiently across the battlefield. And in many cases, this meant repairing or upgrading roads and bridges, establishing alternative routes, and utilizing air transport where feasible. Infrastructure development was another critical component of optimized logistics. Strong, reliable infrastructure is essential for supporting sustained military operation. So by focusing on building and maintaining a robust infrastructure such as supply depot, medical facilities and communication network, the Indian forces could create a resilient logistical network that could withstand the pressure of war. Optimizing supply lines was equally important. Efficient supply lines ensure that flow of essential resources like ammunition, food, fuel and medical supplies is consistent and uninterrupted. This required careful planning and coordination to manage the transportation of the supplies from central depot to the forward position, minimizing bottlenecks and delay. So by having a flexible and well-organized supply chain, the Indian military could maintain a steady flow of resources to the front lines, ensuring that their troops were always well equipped and ready to engage the enemy. Furthermore, optimized logistics played a vital role in overcoming the disruption caused by the enemy and the environment. In a conflict, supply chains are constantly under threat from the sabotage, attack, and other forms of disruption. So by streamlining their logistics operations and creating multiple layers of redundancy, the Indian forces could mitigate these risks and ensure that their operations continued smoothly. This adaptability was a key to maintaining operational effectiveness, allowing the military to stay focused on their mission despite the challenges they faced. Moving next, let's discuss the significance of the strengthening intelligence capability and how reliable intelligence is crucial for tactical planning and decision making. For Indian forces, having enhanced intelligence capabilities meant being able to anticipate and counter the adversary maneuver effectively. In any military operation, intelligence is the foundation upon which the successful strategies are built. It allows commanders to make informed decisions, foresee enemy actions, and stay one step ahead on the battlefield. One of the key benefits of strengthened intelligence is its ability to enhance tactical planning. With accurate and timely information about the enemy's deployment and activities, commanders can develop strategies that are tailored for the specific situation. Reliable intelligence also supports effective decision making. On the battlefield, decisions often need to be made quicker and under pressure. Having access to the comprehensive intelligence allows commanders to assess the situation more accurately and choose the best course of action. Strengthening intelligence capabilities also involve improving surveillance and reconnaissance effort. This includes deploying advanced technologies like drones, satellites, and electronic surveillance systems, as well as utilizing human intelligence resources on the ground. Additionally, strong intelligence capabilities play a crucial role in maintaining morale and cohesion among troops. When soldiers know that their leaders have clear understanding of enemy's capability and intention, they are more likely to trust in the mission and their ability to succeed. And this trust is vital for keeping morale high and ensuring that troops remain motivated and focused even in the face of adversity. Friends, here we come to the end of part 3 of chapter 6, Loss of Jhangar. Friends, please do like, share and subscribe and stay tuned for more updates. Thank you.